What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Crypto Rundown, and welcome to Uptober. It is finally here, and we showcase why October is called Uptober, with historically showing you Bitcoin's performance in October and that we had a historic September as well. Sadly, there's a lot of macroeconomic news for this episode that are bringing down the markets, but we're going to tell you why we don't think that's any reason to fret. And we also have a ton of great news, positive stuff that you're going to want to hear all around the crypto markets. Guys, the timestamps are below so you can watch what you want to watch when you want to watch it. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and enjoy the episode.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Crypto Market Rundown, where we talk about everything that's happening in the great world of cryptocurrency, from the fundamentals in the news to the technicals on the charts. We spend the time doing hours of research so that you all don't have to. And man, what a wild week in the crypto markets, Tevo. We're seeing pretty much a pullback across the board. It doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin, large cap altcoins, small cap altcoins. Doesn't even matter if it's the traditional markets. There is pullback happening everywhere at the moment. And this is something that we talked about a little bit in recent weeks, is saying, hey, the overall path here is still upwards. And we've seen that. But we got a couple of speed bumps that we want to talk about in today's episode. So if you're worried or kind of just curious why the crypto market is falling, we're going to be covering all the catalysts. And of course, there is still a ton of great news to cover as well. So we're going to look at those catalysts that are making us fall. We're going to talk about when the crypto market could potentially bottom out and find a little bit of support. And we're going to talk about all the positive things that are kind of queuing us up for that next leg up. So if you're interested, make sure you listen in here closely. And if you're coming in from Audible or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and you want to look at the visuals about everything that we are going to be referencing here over the next 20 to 30 minutes or so, you got to go over to our YouTube channel. Check us out there. It's the Crypto 101 podcast on YouTube. And that's where you're going to have all the visuals and all the charts and everything else that you're going to want to see. All the stuff that we're referencing is going to be up on there. So with that being said, Tevo, how are we feeling?
Feeling good. Again, you can't take one speed bump and then change how you felt from, a week ago. Because I know that over the last 2 weeks, especially in the crypto markets, we've been pretty happy seeing some great price action, and kind of one of those things. And I know we're going to break that down in a second, is you don't always want to be on the side of the boat where everybody is. I say that a lot. In September, we kind of teed it up as like, hey, September's not that great of a month. Look how it turned out. We're going to show you exactly how it did, but it was in the green. And then, everybody calls October Uptober. So welcome to Uptober, boys and girls. Obviously, we're hoping for a green October, and we'll show you some stats about that in a second. However, on October 1st, not the greatest start, and there's reasons for it. And that's why we're here, to break down and tell you why.
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on there. And that's probably the number one question on everyone's mind here is, why are we falling? I thought October is supposed to be Uptober. Historically, this is supposed to be the best month for the crypto markets, which we'll look at in just a second. We actually got a really cool graphic that I think everyone is going to be enjoying. But the main question on everyone's mind here is, why in the world are we falling? This should be prime time for the crypto markets. We are just contesting the highs and everything. And let's talk about these catalysts. So catalyst number one, we're going to be looking at the charts in just a bit. In fact, I actually want to give everyone a little bit of a sneak peek here and flash this up for all of you. But Bitcoin was just retesting its primary resistance zone. And by that, I mean, if you look at the screen here, Bitcoin has been in this falling channel for a while now. This is a daily chart. I'm going to switch this over to a weekly chart so that we can see this just a little bit more clearly without all the noise. And you can see that inside of this falling channel, Bitcoin has been going from support to resistance to support to resistance, just back and forth inside of this channel. And you'll see that just a couple of days ago, Bitcoin retested the very top of this falling channel. Now, keep in mind, we have been stuck in this since February of this year. I mean, we have been in this thing for a really, really long time, pushing well past the half a year mark. And because of that, this is a giant resistance zone for Bitcoin. So what Bitcoin does, the rest of the crypto market will follow for the most part, right? There's going to be days where not everything is perfectly correlated, but the general trend is that if Bitcoin is overall trending upwards, altcoins are going to do okay. If Bitcoin is getting destroyed on a day like today, then altcoins are going to get hit to the downside. And that's a lot of what we're seeing here. So, catalyst number one, Bitcoin came up to the top of its primary resistance, the top of this falling channel that we've been watching really closely, actually, inside a lot of these market rundowns. It came up to the top of this, tapped it to a T, and this is a big old resistance zone for Bitcoin. So that's catalyst number one. What about the rest of here? Well, there's a couple of other things that are going on across the world. Number one, here in the States, or I guess number two, here in the States, we have the strikes that are happening for dock workers and kind of the whole import strikes that are happening across the US right now. And we can flash something up on the screen for everyone that is curious. But this is a big deal because essentially, I think something like 50% of East Coast ports are going to be affected by this. And it is overall just pretty impactful. And that's why we're seeing both the traditional side and the crypto side getting hurt by this, because again, it goes back to the argument that we made a couple of weeks ago, saying, hey, risk on assets can sometimes be affected together. And people are just a little bit nervous about what this could do to the GDP of the US and other things of that nature. And because of that, risk on investors are saying, hey, we want to step back here. We want to ease off risk. We want to exit the markets until this gets resolved, which hopefully it gets resolved sooner than later. But we're seeing a little bit of a pullback because of that. People are scared and people are nervous because I saw something like this is burning like billions of dollars a day, or our GDP is essentially losing billions of dollars a day for every day that these ports aren't active. Which, I mean, if you think about the extent of it, Tevo, it starts to compound over time.
Yeah, and this is definitely something that people have seen for, I honestly, probably a couple months. I definitely heard it like late summer, early fall, and then the last week people were kind of teeing it up. Especially on X is where I heard it the most. Haven't really heard it that much on the media, even though it's theirs now. And then today as well, again, not really our department of geopolitics, but around noon, I think it was around noon today. I just had the TV on low, and I caught the beginning of it is that Iran is now attacking Israel, and these two countries have been going back and forth. And it's really not our place to really speak on these matters here of what is going on, other than there were missiles fired, and when that happens, markets seem to get a little shaky, and it happened during market hours. So again, it was a red day in TradFi, it was a red day for crypto. But when they call it hot, right? Hot war. When things get hot, assets tend to go down. People kind of stack up some cash. And again, like you said, with the dock workers, wait until clarity is upon us. And in the Middle East, there's certainly no clarity right now.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of this goes back to that whole risk on argument of people being nervous. There's an escalating conflict over there. And again, we're not experts on it, but whenever there's any kind of escalating conflict, we even saw this back with what happened with Russia and Ukraine a little while ago. And when that was escalating, the markets were freaking out. And this is just another example of that, right? So, time will tell, but the fears are here is that, hey, there's everything happening with the dock workers. There's everything happening in the Middle East with escalations. There's crypto market just hitting its primary resistance zone. And it's kind of just this perfect storm that has come together to let prices retrace a little bit. But think back historically, what happened on those dips from previous conflicts, right? What happened after those dips? The markets ripped. What happened after a lot of these uncertainties was solved in the past? The most recent one was the Japanese carry trade. The markets got hammered. They tanked. Everyone freaked out. People were removing risk. And then immediately we recovered from the 50,000s and we skyrocketed back up to this high that we just hit. So I want everyone to think and kind of take a step back here and ask yourself, where has been some of the best opportunity to buy? And it is when everyone else is freaking out and they're fearful and they're selling and they're removing risk. And when you look at that, again, the Japanese carry trade, the Russia-Ukraine escalation, whatever example you want to look at, it's almost always the same, and that they create a buying opportunity, which kind of brings us into where we're at right now. We are entering into Uptober. At the time of recording this, October 1st, we are ready for this. And we got a really cool graphic that we want to show everyone. But historically, this has been the best month for Bitcoin. And we rarely see a positive September, which we actually did last month. It's borderline record breaking. We saw one last year, but before that, look at the dry spell. How many is that, Tivo? We got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that 6? Am
Eight,
I reading that right?
eight reds.
8 reds. And now we just put in our fourth green.
Yeah,
So the odds were stacked against us,
yeah. I was
yet
gonna
here
say
we are.
our average September was down 3.75% this September. We actually had our best September on record at 7.57%.
Wow. Yeah. And that should just tell you exactly where the current state of the crypto market is here. And now we're moving into October, which historically has been the best performing month for the crypto markets. And I think it's either October or November, but the point is, we're heading into a point where these are some of the most bullish months that we could be entering into. And here we are. We are entering into them coming off a bullish September, which we rarely see. And so if you're not excited, you should be.
Again, it's been really a unique year if you go all the way back to the start of the year with the approval of the ETFs. It kind of is fitting almost that we had a green September in the sense that I feel like narratives are changing. So the narratives of change in crypto are changing, the narratives on Bitcoin are changing, and we've covered that on the show across the last year. But yeah, again, you got to zoom out. Japanese carry trade was a great example. All the other conflicts that we've seen over the last, really, I mean, you could really say the history of the stock market. Pick your poison of what was the biggest dips of conflict, whether it was self-inflicted like a 2008 crisis, or
Yeah.
times of war. The eighth wonder of the world is compounding interest if you bought these dips in the markets. So something to consider. And I think that's why we're all excited about crypto, is kind of that new age of finance that we're here. So it's exciting times for that kind of changing of the guard of being more accepted. And yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see if we can keep the October, November mojo going into year's end.
Yeah. And basically, what that would mean is, in order to hold to a positive October, we would need to be breaking out of this channel. That's what that means, because we essentially started this at the top of the channel. So if we want to see even a remotely positive October, it would mean us retesting probably close to 70K, if not higher, by the end of this month. Now, will that happen? We'll wait and see. Historically, it would say that it's likely to happen. Doesn't mean it has to, but the odds are stacked in our favor, and we like that. Now, with that, we got a lot of good news. We had actually a lot of good news that I think everyone will be interested in. And one of the big ones here is that Hashdex just filed, or really amended, their S1 filing for their NASDAQ-based crypto index ETF. Now, what is this? Well, this has been something that people have been talking about and really wanting for forever in the crypto markets, is saying, when are we going to get an index ETF? Essentially, an ETF that is comprised of multiple cryptocurrencies so that you can get exposure to different parts of the crypto market, all from a singular ETF filing. So this is a big deal. Companies have tried to do stuff like this in the past. And so Hashdex is basically coming forth and saying, hey, we're going to try to be the first person to really do this in an ETF setting. And since Bitcoin and Ethereum are the only cryptocurrencies that have ETF approvals at the moment, those are the only cryptos that are going to be comprised inside of this index. So as time goes on, as more potential ETFs get approved, this will allow them to potentially expand this offering, probably increase their crypto exposure, maybe add new altcoins as they get approved, which I know we're going to talk about in just a second here, because I saw some breaking news that came in
Yeah.
um, at the time of recording this. So I'll tee it up to you, Tivo. But last thing I'll say here is that this is a big deal, because people can now get an index where they get exposure to multiple cryptocurrencies. It's starting out with two, but it can expand to be more than that. But they can get exposure to multiple cryptocurrencies from a singular US index ETF.
Yes. Thank you for that tee up. Breaking news. Right as we started to record the show, I got an alert on Twitter that Bitwise has filed for an XRP Ripple ETF per Coin Telegraph. I know we've talked about Ripple a couple times over the last month, and I don't know, exciting to see. Just building off your point there, you have your thoughts about Ripple, whether you hold a bag or you don't. However, just again, more types of ETF vehicles going into the space, and I like that Bitwise is doing it because I did have on my mind of getting Matt Hogan on before the end of the year. So this would be great
Yeah.
to catch up with him and see all the updates around Bitwise as a whole. But this would be a great talking point to hear his thoughts about.
Yeah, definitely. And I got to throw a little bit of shade here, Tivo. How much do you think that XRP is up on this news?
Oh man. Well, it's a macro down day. Don't be throwing too much shade on Ripple now. They're going to come after you. I'll say on this news, I'd say whatever it was at, say 30 minutes ago, it probably bumped up. I'm going to say like 2.25%.
Yeah. Well, I don't have the chart of what it was at 30. Actually, I'll pull up a chart. It's actually down from where it was about 30 minutes ago, and it's still red on the day. So, me as a skeptic just has to throw that in there. Again, all jokes aside, I am half joking here. We want to see every crypto project thrive. It's kind of a running joke about what's happening with XRP. But we really do want to see every crypto project thrive, even though it will probably not be something that I want to get exposure to. It is a great sign for the whole health of the crypto industry. And we want to see all crypto projects do good. So this is this is a step in the right direction. I hope it has wild success. And also, if there's anyone doing this, I'm glad that it's Bitwise. It's a guy that we've talked to before. It's a guy that I personally trust. I think he has a great reputation. And with this, I'm excited that they are the ones doing this and they are the ones trying to spearhead this. Now, my fear here is that after what's happened with the Solana ETFs getting shot down and the SEC still being very hesitant towards altcoins and the whole XRP case kind of still lingering, I am hesitant to believe that this is going to be something that gets approved. I could eat my words, right? This whole trial that we've had over the last, like 4 years now, that could be the premise and kind of the foundation that sets up this ETF for approval. So I could be wrong. But at the time of this, seeing the way that the SEC and Gary Gensler reacted to a Solana ETF idea and shot it down immediately makes me very cautious to believe that they're going to allow one that they have been in an ongoing battle with for the last several years. Now, again, I think this is a step in the right direction for the whole crypto industry. We want to see more of these. We want to see cryptos thrive. And we want to see them get mass adoption. So I like what's happening here, regardless of what the project is. But that's something to kind of note going forward. So overall, a cool thing to see, and kind of piggybacking off of that, we got Robinhood back in the news, someone who we've also had on the podcast here, but they're going to be launching crypto transfers in Europe. Now, what this means is that people can deposit and withdraw over 20 different cryptocurrencies. And previously this didn't exist. People could buy and they could sell cryptos on Robinhood. Before that, they couldn't even get cryptos. So it's been this slow adoption process for people who want more exposure and interaction with the crypto markets, where it started out with them just not being able to own crypto. And then now they're able to buy it, sell it, transfer it, move it to wallets, do all these things. So again, more adoption that continues to happen. And on top of this, we saw that Japan is setting up to potentially lower their capital gains tax on the crypto markets as well, and just more positive adoption. So I know that there's a lot going on in the space here. I know that there's a lot of things to kind of freak out about and be nervous about, especially as the prices of many of the cryptos that we are invested to, or maybe even emotionally attached to, as they continue to fall. But I kind of urge everyone, take a step back, look at all these positive things that are happening. There's still SEC filings for new altcoins, for new crypto indices, for lower tax rates across the world, for more wallet and centralized exchange interactions, whatever it may be. There's a lot of positive stuff that's happening here. And we have seen the short-term impact that a lot of these like current events have on price, but it's just that they're a current event. They're not a long-term black swan. They're not a long-term market making deciding factor. So when in doubt, we like to have a saying here: when in doubt, zoom out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that I know we have a little bit of an abbreviated episode today because we have to get you on our way to our trading call for our community. And always a great reminder that this is what Inside the Community is all about. When stuff goes down like today, where there's a lot of price action, we hold court basically every day in some form or fashion. So if you're interested in being a part of our community, please check the links below. But if not, we're always here every week to give you the free stuff as well. And I think that's kind of why we did a shorter episode this week as well, is like we could line up TA and look at it. And we showed you a little bit in the beginning. We really wanted to show you kind of the September to October stats, or Uptober, if you will. But on days like today, there's not much technical analysis that you can dive into on a daily or weekly basis. It's like this is, a black swan event. And sadly, I feel like in the world, we see a lot more quote unquote black swan events more throughout the year than we ever have. But I don't think you need to panic, trade, sell anything right now. Although it's never personal financial advice on this show, just two guys talking opinions and looking at the markets. But it's a great year to be in crypto, and I feel like, or I hope at least, that will continue to be that way for the rest of the year.
Absolutely. So we're going to continue to dive into everything that's happening in these markets, and you can bet that we're going to be around at the same time, same place next week. But as Tevo said, we got a call to run to. If you want to get plugged into our community and you want to dive in a little bit deeper, then check out those links in the description down below. Check us out on YouTube, and we're going to see all of you very, very soon.